I'm doing whatever I can to pattern interrupt this thing. Scroll, scroll, scroll through the Facebook feed. What's up, everybody? Noah Hammond Terrell here. And I'm really excited to share this concept with you guys today because this is something that has brought extreme clarity into my own space. And it's so freaking simple that I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. What's up, Bonnie? Welcome to the stream. I'm going to kick it for like 30 seconds, let a couple more people get in here, and then we're going to kick it off and talk about what the law of opposites is all about and why this one really simple concept can make a huge difference in all the areas of your life that are important to you, whether that's your business, your personal growth, your relationships, your personal freedom, right? Freedom in this world comes from having it all. And I think that in our hyper-connected and hyper-resourced world, the only way that an achiever mentality or an achiever persona like entrepreneurs are and like we are, you can't settle for anything less than having it all because you know it's possible for you. There's no lack of evidence of that out in the world, that it's totally possible for us to have it all. And I think the law of opposites is a huge contributor in us getting there. So let's kick into it. The concept is very simple, and I think the easiest way to illustrate it is with this example. If you've ever used mobile deposit before to put a check in the bank, you need to like lay the check flat on the table. And if, for example, this check had a crease in it and it was kind of popping off the table and the picture wasn't happening correctly, the way you could solve that is by taking the crease that's in the check and folding it the other way. And when you do that, it's sort of like the opposite fold flattens out the crease and then the check goes into the bank. And this is kind of an experience that I had where I was like, wow, this law of opposites shows up everywhere, even in what you need to do to get your check to go into the bank, right? So how do we take that same concept and look at it across our life for increased sales, for emotional healing, for better leadership, for greater personal freedom? Let's talk about each one individually because the law of opposites plays out in each of these things in different ways. So one of the things that I love that a friend of mine and a sales trainer and very masterful sales mentor, Alex Moscow, says is that the reason they can't is the reason they must. And from my experience having coached hundreds of people and taking them through that very powerful moment, the most transformational moment really in any kind of coaching engagement is that moment of enrollment. And in that moment of enrollment is where the biggest resistance comes up because it's the last ego fight or flight moment where it can sidetrack you from the change and the transformation and the growth that you know you want. And so a great way of sort of a meta example of handling objections is the reason they can't is the reason that they must. So if someone, for example, is being super logical, super in their head, super like, oh, I really want this, but I need to go calculate it and I need to go back and run some spreadsheets and things like that. And that's the reason why I can't really commit to this thing that I know that I want in this moment of commitment. I need to back out and go calculate. The reason they can't is the reason they must. So what's the opposite of I need to get super logical with this decision? The opposite is, do you remember a time where you were more spontaneous? Do you remember the freedom that you felt with that spontaneity? Do you remember the power that you brought into your life? Do you remember when you were a child and you didn't have to calculate everything and control everything, but you could feel in your gut what you wanted to do next and allow it to unfold? Like, this is one of those moments. And so it's the law of opposites at play, right? Because the objection is handled by the opposite energy. All right, the same thing is true if someone is not trusting, and they're not trusting of you, and they're thinking, well, I really want this, and I do get, and I see all your testimonials, and I believe it's possible for a lot of people, but I'm just not sure if I trust that you're going to get this result with me, or we're going to get this result together. Well, the opposite of their lacking of trust would be to invite them to see a space of trust. So for that, it would be like, well, do you remember a time where you were deeply trusting in your own inner knowing? And it would be an opportunity in that moment to invite them to see their own inner knowing and to step into their own inner knowing and to follow that, whichever way that is, whether that's into working with you or not. Right? So the law of opposites plays out in your sales conversations. Cool, Bonnie. I'm glad that makes it. It's like so clear, right? You fix the problem with the opposite. Now let's talk about emotional healing. Everything's energy, everything is frequency. So if an emotion is the disturbing frequency of, let's say, anger or rage, or let's call it jealousy, right? Jealousy is a frequency. The opposite of jealousy might be appreciation, or whatever you decide it is. The opposite emotional frequency of the current negative experience of the emotion is the cancel out, right? So if you think about like sinusoidal waves in physics, if you've ever seen something like that, where it's like this is the wave of the energy, the canceling out of that energy would come from the equal and opposite energy, right? And so with emotions, since everything is energy and everything is a frequency, if you're having an emotional disturbance that's negative by your judgment and doesn't feel good, right? Like jealousy or anger or rage or upset or hopelessness, the remedy for that is the law of opposites in work again. So the remedy of rage is peace. The remedy for hatred is love, right? And you know, my guru teaches a really simple technique that I linked to in the article that I shared down below on this feed. But it's just right now what I want to present you to is that the law of opposites is playing out across all these different paradigms of our life, which is cool because simple things bring power into your awareness. Because when it's simple, you don't have to think about what 75 different things do I have to reference in order to create a solution for myself here. And ultimately what this brings us to is greater self-leadership. A framework that I love to look at and use is from a guy named Jim Quick, where he talks about, you know, if we want a different result, we typically look at what new behavior do we have to implement to get that new result. And along with that behavior in the tangible realms, there's also like our capacity in our environment. Do we have the ability to implement that behavior? Do we know how to? And do we have the environment around us that's going to support us in consistently implementing that behavior? And then when you get past those things, there's sort of the unseen realms of your beliefs and your values and your identities. And the law of opposites plays out very powerfully in those unseen realms as well, with beliefs and values and identities, right? So if, for example, you want to become an entrepreneur, but you have an identity that I am a low-level employee or something like that, or like I'm not good enough or something like that, obviously that's going to be hindering your ability to get the results. The law of opposites shows you that the simple, and it's obvious when you say it out loud, the solution to your identity mismatch and the empowered identity that you need to adopt instead is the exact opposite. So I'm not good enough, like I am infinitely worthy, right? And if you look at limiting beliefs and the things that typically are running in the subconscious mind that are holding people back subconsciously, every time I work with a client and we get into what are the beliefs that are impacting the surface level behavior and causing a looping pattern of problem and inconsistent result on the surface, when we get down to the limiting beliefs that are there, and these are usually things that have been installed at early ages in childhood from limited understandings of the reality of happening around. An example could be, I love this example, you're 5 years old, you're running around your living room, you bump into a table, you knock a vase on the ground and it smashes. Your mom comes in, she's freaked out because that was like grandma's vase. And what does she do? She goes, "Oh, what's wrong with you? You're so clumsy," right? And being 5 years old and having mom be God essentially at that moment, you go, "Oh, I'm clumsy." And that gets locked into your framework. If it's never accessed or reassessed or given space to have the truth, which is the opposite, come in. And the truth is you're not clumsy, you're 5. The truth is that you have the ability to be more aware and more mindful in any given moment and to make better decisions with your greater awareness and to learn more about how to use your physical body and to become more precise with those movements. And you're capable of learning all of that and everything else, right? And so like I am clumsy is the false belief that causes repeated problems in the experience of living later on in life. I'm infinitely capable is the true belief that once adopted dissolves the problems you would see on the surface of your experience of reality with that belief in play, right? So again, the law of opposites. And lastly, I want to talk about how, this law of opposites plays into better leadership and more freedom, because ultimately what the law of opposites gives you in this ability to, make better sales, to heal yourself emotionally of false identities, of limiting beliefs, and all these internal structures that cause you external woes. Ultimately, what you gain is self-leadership. And I truly believe that you need to be able to consistently and consciously lead yourself before you can effectively lead anyone else, especially if you're wanting to lead a team of A players who are each individually super freaking stars. You need to be a superstar yourself, and you need to have superstar self-leadership capacity. And the reason why this correlates to your freedom and to ultimately your ability to have a bigger business, more of an impact, and more freedom in yourself is because as you lead yourself more effectively, you lead more effective people, which gives you more freedom to trust in and to put value in and opportunity into your people and to let them lead their each individual things. It's like the mark of a true leader is that they don't build followers, they build other leaders. And you can't do that effectively until you've done that effectively for yourself. But once you do, then you have this new level of freedom unlock in your business where you're not going to be surrounding yourself with people who are just yes people or people who need a constant attention and support, but you're going to be surrounding yourself with leaders because you become one yourself. So that's what I really wanted to get out there into the world today, this law of opposites and how crazily simple but highly effective it is for such a range of things that we need to achieve in our lives and to have a great life overall. And for those of you who want to talk with me more about how to maybe apply this into your world, into your business, I do free strategy sessions. I specifically work with entrepreneurs who want to know how to scale their business and their freedom at the same time, right? To scale their business without scaling their grind, stress, worry, and hustle, but to scale their business in a new energy that actually brings more freedom, the kind of freedom that you became an entrepreneur to create in your life to begin with anyway, into your world. And so if you're interested in talking to me about that, drop me a message or go to noahhammondturtle.com/breakthrough and you can put in an application for a strategy session. I hope this has been incredibly helpful. Drop me some comments, drop me some likes, some hearts. Let me know if this has been valuable. Let me know what you're getting out of it. Happy to answer any other questions as well. And sending tons of love your way, guys. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.